Hi, it's Marco here. So Nvidia stock is on fire. And so is it a good time to buy this stock or not? Well, Nvidia is a growth stock. And so the first thing we're gonna look at, and this is very important, is the growth rate, revenues. What are we looking at now? So the first thing that I wanted you to focus on is this bit of news, that is AMD and Nvidia GPU prices continue to fall in Europe as availability improves. So that was literally something that came out 1 day ago. And so basically what I wanted to bring your attention to is the fact that the price of chips, and obviously Nvidia is a chip maker, well, it's going down. So the revenues of this company should take a hit. Now, there is a fact though that this could be it could be temporary. Sorry for that. Well, even the Fed made a mistake about this. They said it was transitory and then it wasn't. Someone remembers transitory inflation. Well, smash the subscribe button if you remembered transitory. So what I want to tell you is incredible growth could be a risk. And that's the one thing that I wanted to tell you. If you sell chips at a lower price, you will have lower revenues. But there is another thing that is very important, and it's not only that. In fact, we are looking at potentially a patch of maybe lower prices. Maybe it can be just for a little while, not just for a long time. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is that there are the earnings coming out, and so I am going to make a video about it. So, if you want to know the latest news on Nvidia stock, well, subscribe, because this is the channel, and obviously I'm invested in Nvidia stock. So the next thing that I wanted to tell you is that the shortage of chips, microchips, is another driver that is actually increasing the revenues of these companies. And so looking at the latest news that I'm gonna show you in 1 second, it doesn't look like we are gonna really see an end. And when? Well, let's have a look at this article. Some car makers are optimistic, more optimistic than others, and they believe the microchip shortage will be over sooner rather than later, blah blah blah. So they will say with basically that we will reach that in the second half of 2022. But then there are other companies, for example, Infineon, which is one of the largest chip makers in the world and also supplier for the automotive market, doesn't believe the disruptions would be over by this time next year. And so you see that where we kind of are in two minds. We don't know when the chip shortage will finish. And so the revenues, from a revenue point of view, and Nvidia is all about growing revenues. It's a very strong growth stock. Well, the revenues, the drive of this stock is intact. So it's doing actually quite well. And so the other thing that we need to think if you want to buy Nvidia now is, let's have a look at the environment that Nvidia is in. And so that's where I want you to actually, well, first of all, if you want to support the channel, that's very good. Have a look in the description for the Patreon, but it's just $3 a month. But what I wanted to show you is this. Now, on this channel, I've told you so many times how important is the Fed, and I've made so many videos. So what we are basically experiencing, the pain, apart from today, we've seen a lot of pain. Well, that is due to the fact that the Fed is starting to rain down on growth stocks, and the reason is inflation. And so what's in front of you, and if you are a subscriber to this channel, you know that already, is the balance sheet that seems to start to basically this is the balance sheet of the Fed, and the way the Fed is printing money by expanding their balance sheet. And so you see that it's still expanding, but not as fast as it's been doing. So this is kind of the pain and what the Fed has been promising us to happen. So with the Fed deciding to kind of reduce their money printer, just turn it off. That's what they said. They've also threatened to stop it, to completely stop it, and also to sell back the bonds that they bought. So to actually reduce the balance sheet, which is basically would create even more basically trouble for the stock market. Well, what I wanted to tell you is that although I'm an investor in Nvidia and I'm still holding a bit of it, not much, a bit of it, I am still very much in favor of dollar cost averaging into the stock if your horizon, if you can afford to keep the money in the stock market for at least 5 years. And the reason is because we are in very troubled times. It's not 2020, it's not even 2019. It was actually a very good year, if you remember, up until we had the massive crash in 2020. It's not those years. Even 2018 wasn't great, but anyway, 2021 was very good as well. Well, those years, unfortunately, 2022 is not that. And so what I wanted to tell you is that if you are really thinking for the long term, then start dollar cost averaging in, but please be aware that you will have a lot of volatility. And I'm making videos about the Fed when they are releasing more news, but we see so much inflation and it's really hard to understand when the Fed will actually make a move. At this time, as I showed you basically a few seconds ago, their balance sheet keeps increasing, and I really hope you understood that the Fed is the driver of the market, and Nvidia is obviously one of the companies that is being driven up or potentially down if the Fed basically stops pumping money into the market. And the Fed money is basically the fuel of this rocket that is basically the market, and in particular we're talking about Nvidia. Most growth stocks are very strongly fueled by the Fed because, for example, in this case, Nvidia is a profitable company, but it's also a company that is very much traded for the options, and there is a lot of hype behind it. And when there is hype and when there are a lot of option trading, well, that's when you have a lot of swings, lots of volatility, which obviously in good times when the stock is doing well, it's incredibly positive. But now we can see a lot of volatility to the downside. And okay, I might sound a bit bearish, but I'm just thinking for you guys. I really want you to not be disappointed when the Fed starts raining down on the whole stock market, because as you know, the Fed doesn't quite care about the stock market, or so they say. And like I said, I'm gonna make a new video when the earnings report is out, probably soon, but the point being that basically the Fed is the driver and Nvidia is in a great place. So now you know what to do with your money if you want to buy Nvidia stock. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.